Hello and welcome to the October 2024 version of the Philmont Trek Talk group on Facebook's monthly live chat. This is where we talk about everything that we can think of that's going to help you have the best trek possible, the best experience at Philmont Scout Ranch. I said trek. We're actually going to talk about something that's not even a trek that you can do at Philmont. But before we get into that, let's introduce our panel. Hi, I'm Jeff. I will be your tour guide this evening. I am the former, very recently former skipper of Sea Scout Ship 4019 in Burlington, North Carolina. I've been on a number of treks as youth and as an adult, and have run the Philmont Trek Talk group, or founded it. We have a team that runs the group, but I founded this group several years ago, and I will be facilitating the discussion tonight. And Scott, if you could introduce yourself and introduce the guests that you brought with you.
Awesome. Yes, I'm Scott O'Mary. I'm Scout Master at Troop 259 here in Plano, Texas. I just got back from Plano. I got back from Philmont. I'm still in Plano. Back in August, so not too long ago. Wasn't a trek. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I do want to introduce the guy to, I don't know what's in virtually my left, I guess. Doug Jenkins. He and I were on the same crew at the Philmont Leadership Challenge in August, and we'll talk about a little bit more about that. Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Where are you and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Doug Jenkins. I'm a Cub Master over in PAC 431 in the Greater Tampa Bay Area Council in Pinellas County. And so I've been an active adult leader for 3 years. I'm an Eagle Scout, and the trip that Scott and I are going to talk about is the first time I've ever been to Philmont, and what a wonderful trip we had, and what a great crew we had. So that's me.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob.
All right. Rob Smith. I'm with Troop 85 in O'Fallon, Illinois, and I'm the High Adventure Coordinator. I'm also the purveyor of highadventurescouting.com. and has all kinds of good information about high adventure activities, many of them not the BSA activities. So a good place to go, and I'm always up for suggestions. So that's
excellent.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Hurricane Sal.
Yeah. I'm not sure Sal has a good enough signal. He seems to be roboting and I can't hear him.
Like
Domo Origato, Sal.
Max Headroom.
Yeah. All right. That is Sal Porto Jr. from also from Tampa, Florida. And he runs the 9-10 years or so of running the council contingent for the Greater Tampa Bay Council, whatever that's called. And he is also the proprietor of Suncoast Wilderness First Aid, and the designer of the Gear Report and Suncoast Wilderness First Aid crew first aid kit that you can order from North American Rescue. You can find information on that within the Philmont Trek Talk group. We have at the top some pinned posts, and one of them right up here tells you about that first aid kit if that's something you'd like to look into. So there we go. Nothing like making sure everyone gets everything they've ever done promoted during the introduction section. If you have seen this before, you know everyone here except Doug is kind of the newbie. So welcome. We really do appreciate you coming to help share your first experience out at Philmont with the rest of the group. And why don't we go ahead and dive into not PTC, which I initially typed right before we went live, which would be the Philmont Training Center, something coordinated through the Philmont Training Center as PLC. Right. So I'll let you guys tell us what that means, what it was about, how it was. I mean, it's probably going to take a half hour or so, right, Scott?
At least, but I'll kick it off and then I'll bounce it over to Doug. So let's go back to PTC, the training center. If you really want to get out to Philmont, maybe you don't have a trek registered, but you really want to get out there and experience the backcountry a little bit. There are other opportunities to go to Philmont Training Center. as you show on the screen. And in some of the courses that you can take are there right across the street from base camp at the training center. But the course that Doug and I went to, still coordinated by the training center, but it's about 7 or 8 miles down the road at a backcountry camp called Rayado Ridge. Oh. And some of you may have had scouts go to Rayado Ridge to take nail, for example. Some of you may have taken wood badge at Philmont. That's also at Rayado Ridge. The course after wood badge is called the Philmont Leadership Challenge. It's kind of broken. If you're familiar with the wood badge setup, you are broken out into crews. Wood badge is all critter crews. Ours are all kinds of, I guess, New Mexican type or Philmont-esque named crew. Doug and I are on the Anasazi crew.
Anasazi.
Anasazi, exactly. And I'm going to bounce it over to Doug to tell you a little bit about the PLC, the Philmont Leadership Challenge program, with the understanding it is primarily training, but you do get some flavors of Philmont. So Doug, tell us about PLC.
Sure. So like Scott mentioned, the PLC is for folks who have completed wood badge or working on their ticket. And it is kind of taking the idea of servant leadership to the next level. So this is not about, the things that we learned was not just about servant leadership, but at the application of it. So we did a little bit of wilderness first aid. We did a SAR activity. And then, I would say the capstone of it was doing a overnight hike over at, I'm trying to remember where it was.
Camp Hayward.
Camp Hayward, yes. And so, we were in a crew about 7 people. And we had a fantastic crew. We actually gelled and had it, we actually talked, like, what is it, Scott, like 2 or 3 times a week, even after after we were out there. We had great weather. It was, like I said, it was the first time I ever been to Philmont. So things that I was impressed with was the PTC. It's like a college campus. The facilities were some of the best facilities I ever camped at. And even in Rayado Ridge, the facilities there were really, really, really was excellent. The food was also pretty good because, Scott and I and the rest of the crew had to cook it each night. So, we prepared our food in kind of in the backcountry setting. And then, we just did a number of activities and worked with our crew guides. And, that was Tate and my mind is blanking. I forgot. PJ. Can't forget PJ. And so it was a great time. And we had actually great weather too, except, we had a couple storms here and there, but nothing of significance. So that's what I can kind of talk about it. What am I missing, Scott?
Well, so Doug, this audience is probably focused on Philmont treks. So you were touching on a few aspects of the PLC that has some stuff in common with a PLC trek. Mm-hmm. The cooking part. So Jeff, close your ears. Every night the crew had to do the 2-pot cooking method using a whisper light white gas stove to cook our meals. So that's very common.
So there was a historical component to this training.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Close your ears, Jeff. You didn't want to hear that part. I would also say the hike to Hayward had a lot of aspects to a Philmont trek. It was only 3 miles. It wasn't a big, long trek. So if you're not in your peak trek fitness level, it's very doable for the hike and your backpack. Camp Hayward was very much like a trail camp. No staff, a red roof inn. They had a well, I believe, there where we had to treat our water. I talked about they had a stream. We had to collect water from the stream and treat our water. So you had a lot of aspects of a trek one day at Camp Hayward that you could, get your Philmont back on to experience that. So awesome time. Doug, the Rayado Ridge, what they called a backcountry camp, to me was just one step away from base camp at Philmont itself. So you had the platform tents, you had the cots,
Yes,
in the tents, you had showers, you had a kitchen for breakfast and lunch. I mean, it was a little bit glamping in my opinion.
I would call it a little bit of glamping. I mean, the tents or common canvas tents that you would see at a summer camp, and we had kind of a I had two people in each tent, and you had kind of like a bunk, kind of your bedding, and but yeah, it's a little bit of glamping, but then the camp followed leave no trace rules to the T. And so, for the bear management and bear protection programs, we had to, remember the sumps. And so we had to use sumps for washing dishes, teeth brushing, all the type of things you had to do like you would do in the back country there. And so we had nice facilities, but you're still kind of roughing it. And especially the showers. I think the hardest part was getting up in the morning and you had to walk down the treacherous, what was it, like a quarter of a mile or maybe a third of a mile down in your shower shoes and go down to the shower facility, which again was very nice. It's probably the nicest camp shower I've ever been in. I've camped a lot of different places. So, but overall though, as a first time going to Philmont, you really got kind of a taste of what the camp can potentially offer you, especially for a trek. Like, I'm excited once my girls are old enough. Hopefully they'll be interested in doing a high venture that, going out and doing a full, a 7 or 9 day trek out there. And then we also forgot talking about Lover's Leap. That was kind of our last day. We went out to hike up to Lover's Leap and back. So it was really special.
Yes, I forgot about that. Awesome. Yes. And Sal's not on the call, but he does the council contingency at your council every year.
He does.
So connect right there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you realize you don't have to wait for your kids to be able to go to Philmont, right? I mean, maybe you do for family dynamics reasons, but no pressure. But you could talk to Sal, and most years he could use another adult. He's got space for another adult. I've talked about going with the Tampa Bay Council before as like a rent-a-adult. I call myself the Philmont free agent. There are like 3 or 4 of us that in any given year, if a crew really needs an additional adult, they can reach out and one of us will go and like in an uncoordinated fashion. We're free agents in the sense that it's we're not coordinated, and we Dale Wirtz, for example, will do 1 or 2 or 3 treks a summer if crews need it. So you could always hop on and go with someone like that.
I might need 2 free agents if all goes well with the lottery tomorrow for me. So
really? Wow. Yeah. But that's for 26, right?
That's 26, correct.
I think a couple months ago we had someone on this program with us who offered, like I had just come off trail with an injury and said, well, I'm going to have to redeem myself and go next year and complete the trek, because I only made it 5 days before I ended up in the infirmary and then on a flight home this past summer. So I can't remember who it was, but I've got to commit to a crew. I got to find a crew to go in 25, and we'll see how that goes. I think that I think I have a friend that's going to be in the backcountry again this summer. And who knows years beyond that. But so I certainly need to get back out and complete a trek and visit.
Well, to close out the PLC, there's one PLC a year. It's in August. Mm-hmm. I think the registration for that for August 25 is coming up next month. That will open up on the PTC site. And they have 2 wood badge courses there also in the August timeframe, late July.
So we see August 17 to 23 of 2025.
I believe wood badge is before then, I believe.
Let's see. So we can go back to PTC and let's see, male health record. I wonder where they have that. the wood badge.
I think
I'm
it's
not
under
finding
conferences.
it quickly
It's,
here
it's under conferences, but yeah.
under conferences. All right.
Yeah.
What's
And it's
good?
all the
We
way
can-
down to, you have to, it's a calendar. It's a lot of scrolling, but it's down in the August timeframe.
I'm out of shape. My scrolling finger is getting tired.
Hmm.
Family adventure camp. There's so many different things you can do. And Doug, I really appreciate you sharing some of the feedback about the PTC. That had me thinking, we got to be sure to remind people that if you are taking a crew on a summer trek, a lot of people will show up at base camp a day early. And I think that's all you can do is a day early. If you're coming from a low altitude place like Tampa, for example, or another place like I'm coming from less than 500 feet above sea level in North Carolina. So I need time to acclimate. I've had altitude issues on 2 treks where in the first couple days, I didn't have enough acclimation time and I got bad headaches and slurred speech, and people were accusing me of being drunk on the trail. Actually, it was me accusing myself, saying I sound like I'm intoxicated because, man, altitude will do weird things to you. So give yourself the acclimation time. And I spent an extra few days at the training center before my trek this year. And you can literally go on the Philmont Training Center website and book a room basically. And they have two or three different, I think it's 2 different types of tents. You can pick among the layout of where you'd like to be. You can get the
They got yurts.
Yeah,
everything.
The big ones are kind of yurtish. Yeah.
So I stayed the first night before we checked in at PTC. Did you do the same, Doug?
I did, and actually that was really nice because for me, I flew into Denver and then I spent some time over because I was concerned about altitude because some of us are at 30 feet. And so you go from 30 feet to 6,500, that could be a challenge. And I never had altitude sickness before. I've been to Alaska and different places, but everyone concerned, said, hey, you want to be out there a couple of days. So I stayed, that same night, Scott, the night before. And what was nice is, and I would recommend to folks, when you stay out there, the National Scouting Museum is literally across the street. It is extremely cool. I spend at least 2 to 3 hours there. There's so much history and so much information you can see there. It also tells you that you're also kind of old when you see patches on display and you have them because you earned them or you were at that event. So you know that you're getting up there in age. But what I liked about it was the tents were very nice. The facilities were unbelievable. And the dining hall was good. And then we also forget about Villa Philmonte, which is nearby.
Yeah, well, actually, I forgot about that. Our staff, because it was off season, our staff were our docents at the Villa Philmonte, and they gave us a kind of private tour.
That's cool.
Of that as part of the program one day. Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to let's see. PJ from Backpacking Chris was PJ was my wife's crew guide, and the next year they were crew guides together. That's awesome. Yeah. So I wanted to mention to people that you can actually, and I hadn't found it. I know it's in here somewhere where you can click to book a tent. And my understanding, like, I don't recall when I went through the booking process having to check that I was doing anything scout related. I think that you can probably book a tent now just to stay there.
I think you're right, because we had some people of our crew that wanted to leave the night that we were graduated, and they didn't want to hike off the ridge at 4 a.m. So they booked a tent at the last second down at the PTC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but what I was going to say is the big tents that you see right here are the pictures. You can go. I actually have a video tour of these from a few years ago when they first put them up on the main Gear Report YouTube channel. Is a tour of these tents where we walk through and look at all the amenities. They are amazing. And they still look good. That was in 2019 that I shot that video. So it's been 5 years. They still look amazing. But I saw a crew doing a summer trek this summer. Instead of getting individual tents or pair tents for like a full-size crew over in base camp, it was actually cheaper for them to get one of these big tents and just pack the whole crew in it, which I thought was interesting. I don't think they got any sleep that night, but any of them probably. But it worked out, and they were all able to eat at the training center dining hall, use the shower facility, bathroom facility. I'm going to suggest to people, think about on your travel, if you're going to book an extra day early and you want time to go to get the villa tour, do the scouting museum, give Harold a high five when you're there, because he likes that sort of thing, right? You want to explore the area, maybe drive down the road to Rayado, not Rayado Ridge, but Rayado, and check out the Kit Carson Museum, check out anything's in town. It's a really nice central location that allows you to be walking, easy walking distance, everything on Philmont proper in the training center and museum, but then you can still get the shuttles and head into town if you want to do something before or after a trek. I don't think that was really an option a few years ago. And I think that they're going to run out of tents pretty quickly if a lot of people do it. But right now, like, only the people that listen to us and do stuff in our group are really aware that you can even do this. You can get in on a pretty cool deal and a neat experience, like where I stayed before my trek, because I came in to do interviews and meet with people a few days early and visit with some staff before my crew showed up. So I was literally staying right beside the front lawn of the villa. Like, you open my tent and I'm looking out onto the villa front lawn and I see all the deer and animals. And I happened to be there when the cherry trees in the front yard were all like ripe. So I had a buffet there waiting for me. And then the dining hall and the bathrooms are like the nice private bathrooms in the newer shower house over in the trailbound and homebound area at base camp. So I was very pleased with my first experience staying over at the training center, and I echo the thoughts that I heard here this evening about nice dining hall, nice facilities, and everything. So certainly consider that, or there are some other places around if you need a place to stay and you don't want to go there. All right, so that was. Thank you guys for that update for the Philmont Leadership Challenge. We did want to remind people that tomorrow the lottery closes if you want to get a summer trek, not this coming season, but in the 2026 season. So be sure to get on that. Let's see. Do we even want? No, we don't want to talk about white gas versus isobutane. Not this time. But if we want to, I know tomorrow. I'm pretty sure tomorrow, Wednesday, is is it the first of the official Philmont presented live broadcasts? We have very interactive, so we welcome anyone who's out there watching to leave a comment, ask questions, interact with us. We'll be sure to try to incorporate any questions you have and into what we're talking about and answer anything. Let's see. I don't see any questions. Is that true? Yeah, I don't see any questions that have popped up within the Philmont group. Wasn't expecting any over there, but let's see. So they're doing, what did they call it? A Philmont preparation seminar, something like that. Here it is. Preparing for a Philmont trek. That's what they're calling it. So I thought, hey, why don't we beat them to the punch? We can talk about preparing for a Philmont trek, which, I don't want to say they're copying us, but that's kind of what we talk about every time. So to that end, where are we in the calendar? Do we want to talk about anything specifically that people should be thinking about prep-wise at this time of the year?
Well, I think seasonally where you live plays a lot into your prep. So for us in the hot world of Texas, we might actually be thinking about doing some prep hikes now that the heat is kind of off for us. where we wouldn't even consider doing it in July or August or even September here. I wouldn't, at least, but if you're further north, maybe that's what you're doing this summer. I don't know.
I did a personal backpacking trip this past weekend, and it was 80 degrees in Illinois. So
wow.
you just October, and now it's freezing. So, you know.
I guess for us in Florida, it would be we do it in what we call the dry season. So that's going to be December through March and April. So we actually do, because I remember Sal has done several presentations at a couple of our roundtables about Philmont. And so we usually do a couple shakedown camps with the kids who are going onto the contingent, like in March or April in one of our camps to kind of get them ready. So if you're looking at Florida backpacking, that's the season before you kick in a rainy season. You definitely don't want to be backpacking in hurricane season. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
But I understand that you may have gotten some backcountry skill practice this last week in Florida.
Oh, I definitely did. I definitely did. Definitely had all the preparation and all the gear. We were out of power for a week. So I just got it back yesterday. So
wow. Congrats on getting your power back. That's a big deal.
Yep.
All right.
But as far as gear, I guess you could start, shopping for gear right about now for sure. If you're short of gear, it's probably too early to buy boots or trail runners for your scouts. That they're going to grow probably some more. Maybe that's more of a springtime purchase for them.
That dude looks shady.
He needs a shave for sure. Yeah.
Yes,
always. That happens a lot. So this is a plug for my gear list, because we are getting to that point where scouts should be assembling their list of what they would like gear wise. All right, I'm feeling self-conscious that I'm hiding. There we go. Now Rob is out from behind the banner. I just didn't feel right about that.
My self-confidence is good, so I'm good with that. I don't care.
Yeah.
Either way.
So we got to get the glorious hair there where people can see it. There's nothing to see on me. So anyhow, I wanted to share this. I've got the link here in the discussion or in the chat. If anyone needs help figuring out what kind of stuff to get, but my opinion, you guys tell me what you think. I will put links to everything that I think are good types of gear to take, but I'm going to suggest to you that you do not buy anything for someone going to Philmont unless they say, yes, I would like that. I will take it. It's going to fit with what my crew is doing. It's going to match the Philmont gear list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Don't buy something for somebody that they don't want.
I trust everything on this gear list explicitly, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the right fit for the person that you would be buying for, whether it's yourself or someone else. Do your research, make sure you know how you want to pack, what you want to take, get the right stuff. The easiest way to have a lighter pack, which means you're going to have to work less hard, less likely to get injured, more likely to have a good time on the trail. The easiest way to have a light pack is to take less stuff with you. The easiest way to spend less money on gear for Philmont is to buy less stuff. Okay. Right. So the trick here is only buy the right stuff. Buy the right stuff the first time, and don't buy this garbage that you got to spend a ton of money to have a light pack. There are a lot of ideas in this list and in our group
100%
for how you can get light backpacking gear without spending a ton of money. And I'm a huge fan of that. All right.
A whole bunch of lightweight crap weighs a lot.
It does. I do want to share something. Since I got this gear thing open, I just updated this list yesterday. Part of the reason I shared this article, put up on the screen and shared the link, is that I started adding, I think I'm going to break it out into a new article here pretty soon that is lessons learned on Philmont treks. For the 2024 season. It was abbreviated for me, but I did learn some important things. I want to share them with you and show you where you can find lessons from the past few years. All of these are gear centric. I run the website Gear Report. We report on gear, right? That's like my thing, as I report on gear. So everything in here is going to relate back to gear somehow. Number one, I hadn't been in the North Country in a while and hadn't realized how much hail comes down and how big the hail can be. And so I'm going to suggest to you, from a strategy standpoint, as you're preparing a crew to go to Philmont, talk about what are you going to do when hail starts falling? Because when it happens and people start freaking out and running around, if you don't have a plan, you're not going to execute a plan, right? You have to have a plan ahead of time. Maybe even do a dry run on a shakedown of, oh no, there's hail coming. And my recommendation, as you see in this paragraph, that's probably too small for you to read, is that everyone have, I don't carry a chair, I carry a sit pad. And that little foam pad can shield your head. Because let me tell you, when nearly golf ball size hail starts coming down and it hits you in the head, I saw someone get concussed, literally have a concussion, made them nauseous and dazed for a day or two. Probably should have come off trail, but that wasn't my decision. They stayed on. Had they had the sense to pull their sit pad out, they may have prevented that. Had I had the sense to pull my backpacking umbrella out and put it up and have everyone come put their head under it, circle the wagons kind of, backpacks out, head facing towards the center, I bet the whole crew could have got their head under that umbrella. Everyone would have been protected. But I didn't think about it because we didn't have a plan ahead of time. So think about it ahead of time. I think every crew could have a backpacking umbrella that someone carries. I loved it for having shade on days when we were out from under tree cover as well. But then missed the opportunity when the hail was coming down to protect everyone's heads. Horseplay is bad. That's the second one, because I may be slightly more than 50 years old, but I have like the emotional and maturity level of like 12 and a half. So I still am prone to horse playing whenever I get a chance. And I was messing around and stepped on a rock wrong and felt a bone in my foot break right before. This was as we were leaving the campsite to do our 7.5, 8 mile side hike up Baldy and down Baldy. And I went anyway. I knew it was broken. I went anyway because I'm stubborn. It was super painful. I don't recommend that anyone do that. But while we were doing that, I realized that on the side hike, we didn't have the full crew first aid kit. I thought I had my little baggie with some ibuprofen and like blister kit type stuff in my bag. And I didn't. I had taken it out and put it up in the bear bag, forgot to get it back down. We had no ibuprofen. We had no wraps. We had no nothing to deal with my broken foot. And that was terrible. So be sure that you have and you take your crew first aid kit with you. And then also, we've had some discussions in the group about white gas and some of the cons. I'm not aware of any pros of white gas. Well, actually, I can think of one. If you really need a fire and you're not afraid of getting a big fireball, like blowing up in your face, you can pour some white gas on some wood and light it to start a fire a little easier. Okay. That's the good thing about it. Everything else, I think you can do better with isobutane. Something that I saw the crew that I hiked with this summer chose to take white gas because, I was a guest. I wasn't forcing the right way to do it on them. I let them, make their decision. And the very first morning on the trail, right? Like we hiked into our camp the first night. When we left the next day, as we start hiking, we realized that already one of the fuel bottles has leaked and white gas soaked half the stuff in this kid's pack and his pack and everything. So, I've got a lesson learned here that if you insist on taking the old school, you want to take an artifact with you on the trail, you can take your white gas stove and make sure the bottle's screwed all the way tight and in a Ziploc bag, and then put on the outside of the bag. So when it leaks, it's not going to soak the entire contents of the bag.
So Jeff, we need to add one more to lessons for 2024. And Scott, you'll remember this one clearly. If you have car keys that are from a rental car that have a lithium battery, if you leave your backpack out in the field, you want to bury those keys or keep them with you because they may burst in flames and burn your gear down.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. That actually happened. I think it was day three.
Day two.
Day two. It was day two. It was on Ryota Ridge, and unfortunately, someone's rental car keys it bursted
I
in
heard
flames.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I think Scott mentioned it last month. That was crazy. So
I'll fill something in on that later, but we're gonna just call that "Be careful with lithium batteries." And I'll write some, or you can write something, send it to me, whatever. But we'll put something about that. All right, there we go, and it's published. So yeah, I did want to talk about some of those lessons learned. Those were my lesson learned. What do you guys? You have any other lessons learned from whatever year? Anything that you thought you had it down, you thought you knew what you were doing, you got out there and realized, ooh, here's something we should do different.
Well, I have a confession to make as a lesson learned. Is I've been in the no chair camp for years, and I took a chair this time, and it was
Which
nice.
is fine.
I was glad to
You didn't
have
have
it.
to carry it that far.
I would. Well, that's right. So that's my
I
lesson.
would take a chair on what you just did.
Right. You're just going to stay the same place a long time. You only have a 3-mile hike.
Right.
Take a chair.
Sure.
Take a giant fluffy pillow and your teddy bear. Even it'll be fun.
hey, I backpacked 35 miles this weekend with two other buddies, and I took both a puffy pillow and a chair.
Nice.
And it was glorious. I slept wonderfully.
Yes, leave your car.
And we got to enjoy the sunset at night in our chairs instead of on the ground, like Jeff would be,
I guess the thing I learned was I've always backpacked with water bladders. And then after this trek, I'm going to use the 2 32-ounce bottles because a lot of times you have the bladder and it's a pain to fill and backfill. And I wasn't drinking as much water because that's something I learned that week that we were in. And so switching over to more Nagalines and keeping them filled is probably preferable.
I'm a big proponent of the smart water bottles. People in my troop know I'm a zealot on that because they're cheap and they're light, and I've had the same problem with a bladder. I couldn't control I had no idea how much I was drinking, and actually dehydrated on one trip. So I don't do it anymore.
Yeah. So when people talk about bladders, I have got to the point where I carry the bulk of my water in bladders. I'll typically have at least one smart water bottle that's my smellable bottle, but I won't put a bladder inside the pack. I don't think a water container should be inside your pack for the reasons you guys mentioned, as well as it's just a matter of time until one leaks, and I don't want it leaking on the inside. If it leaks, I want it to leak on the outside where it doesn't soak my stuff. But I'll attach a drinking tube and use a bladder on the outside of my pack, where we can see how much I've drank. You don't have to unpack the pack to fill it again or to check how much you've had. Yeah. All right. What else? I'd like to welcome Mr. T. I pity the fool that doesn't know who Mr. T is. Welcome to the October discussion for Philmont Trek Talk, Darrel.
Thank you. I pity the poor sucker.
Okay, good to know. So any other tips that we can share that you guys learned out in the back country? Like, whew, man, should have done that different. I keep feeling like Scott's about to say something he doesn't. So that was getting awkward.
No. I guess it's more of a not less learned. It's I find I learn something new every time I'm going out there.
Sure.
Not that I've necessarily been doing something wrong. It's just maybe there's a better way. So it's always good. Always good.
Yeah. So we got a couple notes down here that I'm going to share, and then I want to talk about the last one. Leave your car keys at the security office. Certainly that is the way to go if you're going on a summer trek, because they ask you to leave your stuff. And I can tell you, leaving keys where people can get to them when they come off trail is important, because you go out with a crew and sometimes not everyone makes it the whole time. And some people end up back in base camp where they need access to things. So checking them in means that people can check them out when they need them. I lived through that this summer unexpectedly. So, so that's certainly important. This is the one that I want to hear your opinions on. What do you think?
Interesting.
Back on the
Remember
key.
cell phones not going on trail, it says. Thoughts?
I was going to mention you can leave keys in the safekeeping envelope at registration along with the locker
Absolutely.
keys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Well, if I remember, cell coverage is very poor out there. So, a lot of us just put it on airplane mode so we can be able to use it for photos. So it wasn't really an issue there. So,
Mhm. Yeah, for what you guys did, I think is probably less critical. So my feedback on this, I was on a crew a couple years ago, and one of the kids, I think his kind of defense mechanism for social anxiety, bit too much stimulation, was to sit and play a game on his phone. He had a game, Jetpack Joyride. Man, he played that thing so much, and his dad complained a couple times about him playing. I was like, you keep letting him charge his phone off your solar panel. I think you can fix this problem. It's not going to be that difficult. But I've heard a lot of people say, I prohibit phones on the trail, or one person can have it to take pictures and they only get to take a certain number. Lots of control over that. I tend to look at it as, I don't want to hear people talking on the phone. I was on a crew once that we had a loud talker. Whenever he got on the phone, his volume went up three levels, and he took a phone call. His phone rang unexpectedly on the trail, and he walked for 20 minutes talking on the phone, and I thought I was going to strangle him. It was, thankfully I remembered you're not allowed to do that, but it was close.
Talk on the phone or strangle him?
Well, I think the correct answer is both, but I'm not even sure I read this someplace. Maybe I'm just assuming that it's frowned upon to strangle people or push them off a cliff or anything like that. So all the things I was thinking about was like, no, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't even know if I've read it, but I'm pretty sure they would frown upon this. So I didn't. But don't be that guy or that girl that goes out there and loud talks on your phone. We're out there away from phones and all of that stuff. Let's just enjoy that. But I also think, who am I to dictate that kid couldn't play Jetpack Joyride? If that's what he needed to do to get the most out of his trek, to disconnect, to get, to kind of go inside and de-stress, who am I to say that wasn't the right thing for him to do? But do any of you prohibit cell phones on camping trips, backpacking trips, Philmont treks, anything like that?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
No.
For me, you're not out there. You're out there to enjoy the nature. You can have that cell phone all the time. And that's not for adults, but for the kids. Right. They can't, most of the time they can't control their use of the, in my experience.
Sure.
Yeah. But I'm an old fart, so.
Have you ever had a parent say that's a deal breaker? Either I can get a hold of my kid or the kid's not going.
We give them our numbers and say, if you need to get a hold of us, then the only problems we have are the kids that have phones and then they call their parents before they talk to the leaders. Yeah. And we've had several issues that have come up, not when I'm there, but when other leaders have been there, and I don't camp as much anymore. So, but yeah.
Biggest problem I have is Scout texts his mom or dad and says, I saw a bear or I saw a snake. And then I'm getting inundated by texts and phone calls from the parents about little Johnny saw a snake. What's going on?
Yeah. When you answer, well, that's nothing. Did he tell you about the bear?
That's right.
We had a kid. I wasn't at this summer camp, but he called his dad, said he said he thought he got bit by a spider, and then his phone went dead and battery was dead. And dad was frantic, thought his kid was dying, and come to find out he had a rock in his boot, and that it wasn't so just a lot of problems that I found. But to each his own. That's my troop. You don't like it, that's all right. There's three other troops in town.
Yeah. It's interesting. I see Backpacking Chris says prohibit scouts from phones on campouts and phones stay in the car. I personally, when I was a scout, no one had cell phones. That wasn't a big deal. Today, these kids grew up with those devices. I don't know how long you're going to be able to get away with that. I think most troops have already figured out that like it's an uphill battle. It's not worth fighting. But
Well,
like
one
you
of
said,
our
Set that expectation early on. I mean, we have not had those problems in our troop because that's just how it is.
Yeah, the contingents I've led, I had one crew advisor who is a no cell phone type guy, and he sets that expectation early on. It's not like 2 weeks before they leave. It's 6-8 months. This is kind of the way it's going to be, and the issues with, well, I got to have it to have my camera and so forth, they can be mitigated other ways. I mean, digital cameras these days are fairly inexpensive, if you will, for a reasonable one. The thing that I found was, as Rob said, was disconcerting. We had a kid who came off the trail, and he got a hold of his cell phone out of the locker, and he was talking with mom and dad, and the infirmary is terrible. They're keeping me here, and da 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 da. And I went over, being the volunteer in base camp, and I went over and tried to mitigate the situation or try to keep the parents involved. And it was getting out of hand the way Johnny was, portraying the experience. And even when Philmont tried to contact him concerning his, contact the parent about, from the health lodge and so forth. Well, I know all that, and you're not doing this, and you're not doing that. It was kind of tough. So
we set the expectation from when they come into the troop. So it's not just for high adventure activity. It's early on. And, if you go up to Northern Tier or up to Boundary Waters, there's no phone service up there anyway. So, and you're in the water. That's not a good combination.
Sure. So do you guys have any restrictions on other stuff? Like, can everyone take a camera, video camera, any of that stuff? Do you limit? I've heard of crews that have said,
no, that's fine.
Crew leader gets a camera, no one else. We'll designate one person as the crew photographer.
Hardly anybody
the historian is the photographer usually.
Hardly anybody has a camera now. They use their phone. So
you see why I'm saying, like, do you actually get away with telling people they can't take a phone because it's their note-taking device? It's where they journal. It's where they take their pictures. It's where they take their video.
There's notebooks. I carry one every day. There's about that big. Fits in your pocket.
You got the issue with charging it and keeping it powered up.
Yep.
And then you're big borrowing or whatever. Staff camps aren't going to be very accommodating for you.
So I'm going down a little bit of a tangent here, but I know we're talking about Philmont here, but Bechtel Summit that whole place was designed around the use of mobile devices and
right.
That's why I wore my shirt today. See?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
that's who I work for. So
might be the exception, I would say.
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I'm looking here. Brick Dad says they have paper journals. That's fine. And a designated cameraman. That's something I would have a problem with. Like, you tell me my kid's going and only one person in the crew is going to be able to take pictures. I'm paying all that money. My kid can't even take a camera and take pictures. I have a problem with that.
That dad can sign up and go next time. How about that?
We never restricted on cameras, but most, I don't know many boys that really want to carry a camera, to be honest about it. Couple, maybe.
Yeah, Rob, you're wearing that shirt. We thank you for your donation.
Well, it wasn't mine. It was Stephen.
So we missed one. I didn't want Norm to feel left out. When he made this comment when we were talking about what should people be doing this time of year, especially in conjunction with that 2026 lottery. You need to be recruiting, and either 25, hopefully for 25, you already got your fundraising stuff kind of sorted out by now. But, I'm sure people have real lives. They aren't just doing scout stuff 1 hour a week, or are they? I don't know if you believe that or not, but there are probably still people going this coming summer who could use some fundraising stuff as well. So those are things to think about now before it's too late. Yeah. All right. Summit doesn't count for the ban on electronics, apparently.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you ever been to the National Jamboree, it's you have to have a cell phone for that. So
I last went to one before cell phones. So
yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
But you can look on the app and see the wait times of all the activities. So it's kind of like Disneyland. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And maybe you guys know this, but I had an advisor last year, 2023. They had an incident, and the advisor pulled out his cell phone, and it said no service. Well, somebody in the crew said that doesn't matter, just dial 911.
Oh.
And he got through.
Wow.
And what we found out was his no service said that he, as a Verizon customer, did not have connectivity. But if you dial 911, they don't care who your carrier is; they'll pick you up.
Right.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
But then that runs into the issue of Philmont requests that you don't dial 911, you call Philmont because they will get the right resources to you more quickly than if it has to first go through 911 and then be routed to Philmont.
Right. And he was aware of that, and he was trying to make the Philmont call, but no service. So Verizon or whatever carrier he had wouldn't pick him up. But when he did get hold of the 911, he had the presence of mind to say, or to ask, where are you, 911 operator? I am in New Mexico. I'm not in St. Louis, Missouri, as, where you would think my phone is registered. And that they got connected to Philmont.
Yeah, nice.
So
let's talk about another electronic item. How do you all feel about these satellite communicators, satellite SOS device, whatever they're called, the personal locator that a lot of, so I'm in a lot of backpacking groups, a lot of like Appalachian Trail type backpacking groups, and that's getting to be a lot more popular. Like a lot of people won't go backpacking without their little spot sitting on their shoulder so they can send text updates, they can send location updates.
I think it gives you a false sense of security because those, I guess they call them like the EPIRBs. I know a couple people have hiked on Appalachian Trail with them, and it's nice, but then there's this false sense of security. Like if I'm in trouble, I'm going to be able to use that. Well, if you fall and you break your ankle, or you find yourself in a position where you can't reach the item, you're going to have to use some of your common sense or some, hopefully, scout skills to get yourself out. And so I like the idea if you have it, like if you are going with a group, like if you are hiking together, have one person have that. But, it's one of those things, if you rely too much on technology, when the technology fails, what is your backup?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have that discussion often when it comes to anyone ask for a GPS app that they can use for trails at Philmont, and they get inundated with just use a map and compass. So I think personally, I don't have enough experience with like a spot device or any of the satellite communicators to speak, from direct experience. But I think they're becoming so ubiquitous in the rest of the backpacking community that Philmont is going to have to figure something out to accommodate people that are bringing them. I've talked to a number of crew advisors who are like, listen, it's irresponsible to not take one. I don't care what they tell me. I'm taking it anyway because it's a safety device. And I'm not supporting that. I'm not saying Philmont's right or wrong. I'm saying that as it becomes more ubiquitous in the generic backpacking community in the U.S., I think that they're going to have to rethink their policy and figure out some way of accommodating people who are used to that.
So what is the problem with bringing it, I guess, is my question.
I think my understanding is that if you set it's like calling 911. If you push the button, then it gets routed to the wrong place, and it causes all sorts of activations in emergency systems that have nothing to do with helping you at Philmont.
We had a crew this past year who took, and I was just trying to look and see which one it was, but the adult advisor had the device, and it actually every 20 minutes it sent out, and you had to belong to the group. It sent out a position, so the parents back home could go to the site and monitor the progress of the group, and also when he had service, he could send and receive text messages.
Yeah.
And it was beneficial in this case because he texted the group, but with my name, and said, Scout Little Johnny is coming off the trail, and coming to base camp. Can you kind of be a friendly face? And I replied, and we went that way. But then in that case, it was controlled. It was one device, one person. And
so the parents were using it like a pizza tracker, basically.
I have trackers on my kids' phone, so I know I know where they're always at.
Right.
Same thing. Yeah. My brother-in-law and nephew both did the AT through hike at different times, and they had that. And my parents were just thrilled to watch their grandson and along the trail. So I don't know that he was thrilled about it, but they were. So
Yeah. Interesting.
And then when he got home, he was able to download all these points, and then he kind of overlaid them or transcribed them over to the overall map and said, "This is where we hiked." So
I think Andy Parrish talks about those pretty on one of his.
And I don't know. I mean, Philmont, they've been in the business a long time, and I know their concerns with these kind of things. They want to be involved because they're the ones who are going to have to do the emergency response and so forth.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure they're going to be able to, quote, ban them and say you can't bring them.
Yeah. Well, I know that they already say don't bring them, and people bring them anyway.
Right. I mean, you get that issue of the responsible person, and how they're using it.
Right. Yep. See, I'm on Team Kevin here. Scouts paid for it. It's their trip if they want to take their phone. I just don't want to hear it. That's my perspective. And Norm talking about fundraising. As a result of their fundraising, they only had to charge $650 per person. So, Norm, are you going this summer? I want to go with you.
Well, did you do the fundraiser?
Did I? No. No. Speaking of fundraiser, you can help Darrel raise funds to support his habit by purchasing a Philmont Trek Talk ribbon to take with you. This one you can see is clearly the Jeff ribbon. It's not. What is that sticking out there? We don't even need to visit what else is on there.
Jeff.
Or I keep seeing people needing bags to put their stuff in. This is mine that Darrel made just for me to carry my bag in. And it was super useful because I actually didn't use it to get to Philmont. I had a bunch of roller bags because I carried extra gear because I was doing interviews and I was going to be there longer. And I had needs for extra gear. Not as much extra gear as I took. I still overpacked. One of my roller bags got mangled by Southwest Airlines, but I had this with me and I was able to, with no hiccup whatsoever, take that roller bag, put it in the advisor's lounge with a note that says free semi-functional bag, which someone took. And I was able to use this to get my stuff home. And it was an excellent bag that worked well to protect my backpack and my other gear from the evil intent of the baggage handlers at Southwest Airlines. I foiled them on the way home. They tried, but I had
Jeff, on the blue tag you had, you need to put Jeff in front of the S.
Jeff's with the apostrophe.
Sorry, this is Jeff's.
If anyone needs to know, this is actually Scott. And at some point, I am going to give it back to him, but it hasn't.
I already have one.
I'll give it to some other Scott. Or maybe, I kind of like using it. Like, it's a better story like this.
Yeah.
So maybe
one of the guys I went with backpacking this weekend had his Philmont Trek Talk tag on his backpack still. So
nice.
And of course, Darrel met my crew on the train. So, well, not my crew, my church crew.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that if you have an interest in either getting bags like that for you, for someone that's going to Philmont, or getting a matching set of bags for a crew, or getting for a contingent, like all of crew A gets red bags, all of crew B gets blue bags, all of crew C gets neon green bags, whatever. I don't care what color you pick. If you talk to Darrel in advance enough, he may be able to accommodate what you're looking for. If you wait till the last minute, he may be at the ranch already and unable to do anything for you. Who knows? He likes to abandon his real life and go hide at the ranch during the summer. All right. We have exhausted our hour. I was going to give another update. Things I know that are going on at the ranch right now, because I have plants all over the ranch. I get fed information on a daily basis of what's going on at Philmont. I can tell you, really, I only have conservation department information at the moment. Did you want to share that, Darrel? It blended into the background. It was camouflaged like a fireplace for a second.
Yeah, it's off my cell phone. So.
Oh yeah. Pack lines of different color bags for different crews. That's awesome. Yeah. So go to the Philmont Trek Talk group and find Darrel Tadsen, and
or DM me direct message.
Yep. So Darrel Tadsen. Yep. So I know conservation has got a bunch of projects. A lot of the departments, they clear out in the off season. Cons, they're working year round. So they've got a stream restoration project going on that's really interesting. They have work crews are out like pretty much the whole time. Year round, it seems like they have work crews going around fixing things in the backcountry. And I know they do a lot of digging up old sumps and putting new sumps in. I should say digging up fragments of sumps, because once the campers leave, the bears like to tear them apart because people don't scrape all the stuff off and they smell too much like food. As well
Jeff,
as
you remind me,
design.
We did a cons project at our PLC training.
That's right.
At Rayada Ridge. So got another flavor of a Philmont Trek as part of that.
What did you do?
We cleaned up I guess you call it the activity field, Doug.
Yeah, it was the activity field.
Cutting and chainsawing and underbrush.
It was remember the wall around that area is where we mainly focused on. We cleared out of brush. We spent a couple hours there, and it was it made a big difference in the area because it was kind of a little overgrown. So
that's awesome. All right. Well done, guys. Oh, Kevin, we almost missed the last comment here. GPS locators are great. Only really need one. We took one. They shared the location tracking with his wife, and she shared it with the parent group. There you go. I think that this technology, like, you can't get away from it. It's best to understand how to work within the system so you're not wrecking things at Philmont when there's an emergency. We want to add to everything running smoothly and everyone who needs help getting it as quickly as possible without breaking things in the process. So,
I think that what he mentioned there was a very appropriate and controlled application, and responsible. way to do it.
Yeah. A reminder that within the Philmont Trek Talk group, one of the discussions in here posted by Philip Ferrier, who is one of the big cheeses there at the ranch. I think he's in charge of the whole backcountry now, isn't he? Something like that. He posted about the preparedness seminars that one is happening tomorrow. So October 16th, 6:30 p.m. I suspect that's Philmont time. So
it is mountain.
Yeah, I'm going to click that. I'm interested in that. That sounds very interesting. Philip's very knowledgeable. I'm sure he has assembled a team of people that are going to have great information to share with you. We love that people come and listen to the informal discussions that we have, but also like to remind people they run the ranch. They're going to give you the information that they want you to have. We sometimes talk about things that isn't exactly the information they want you to have. They're going to give you the official information. So if you're taking a crew, please be sure that you listen to their stuff, and check us out too, whatever.
And the lottery for 26 closes tomorrow at noon.
Indeed, it does. So get on that if that's something that you're looking to do and you haven't done yet. Okay. So with that, thanks everyone on the panel for being here. Thanks for all the questions coming in. We had a little bit of discussion. We really appreciate it. It makes it much better when we have some interactivity and are able to answer questions for people live. Doug, thanks for joining us on your first time talking about Philmont after your first time visiting Philmont. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you that you get out there to do a trek. And I forgot one more thing I wanted to tell people. A friend of mine sent me a note this afternoon that his son has applied to work at Philmont for this coming season and has an interview tomorrow. So if you would like to work at Philmont, if you have scouts or even non-scouts, and a surprising portion of staff at Philmont every year, the seasonal staff, weren't scouts and never went to Philmont. That's not even a requirement. If anyone would like to apply, understand, I know a couple people who've gotten offers already. I know people who are interviewing now. You will have less choices and less options the later you wait. You can probably still get a job in May or even midsummer. I've heard of them hiring people as they step off the trail and say, man, I wish I could work here. And they say, can you start tomorrow? It happens sometimes, okay? But don't count on that. If working at Philmont sounds interesting to you, go to the Philmont website, look at all the job openings they have, think about what you want to apply for. And the parting comment that I can't believe I almost forgot it, I believe October 15th was the last day for Philmont General Manager Roger Hoyt before he leaves his role at Philmont and moves to the Pacific Rim area. I can't remember exactly what his job is going to be. It's still within scouting. He'll be supervising a number of different geographies on the West Coast and out through the Pacific or something like that. I don't want to butcher.
I think it's a territory director, because I believe that rather than the regions, now they're calling them territories.
Got it. Whatever it's called. I don't want to misconstrue what he's doing, but I believe that today was his last day, and I'd like to offer a thank you to Roger. I finally got to meet and spend some time with him this summer. Super guy. I know a lot of staff that has said great things about him. So thank you for your service, Roger, and good luck to last I heard a week or two ago, over 40 people had applied to replace him. So good luck to all of those applicants. I am chomping at the bit to hear. I have no idea how that process is going or when they're going to announce who the general manager is that will be succeeding. Is that what the word is? Who will be following Roger. But to all the applicants, good luck. Thanks for throwing your hat in the ring and being willing to take on such a big responsibility. I have no word about the St. James reopening. But thanks for that.
I don't either, but I've heard from some of the locals that there is a fair amount of interest.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I saw some pictures from the Colfax Tavern just a couple days ago, which, it's for sale. So I was concerned that if it's for sale, maybe it would be shutting down too. But if I'm not mistaken, I saw pictures from this past weekend where people were there. So,
And if I'm not mistaken, I think they actually, and I could be mistaken, that they'd have a buyer.
wow, that's shocking, because if you saw the price tag on that, it
Well,
blew my mind.
price tag on selling property is kind of like, applying, filling out an application for a job. They want 15 years experience in a 25-year-old person,
Sure.
with a PhD. You're asking for the moon, but what do you settle for?
Right. No, I got you. Well, that's good to hear that some of the economic things that may need to happen out there are progressing. So thanks again to the panelists. Thanks for the people who checked in. We'll be back next month. Probably we try to do the second Tuesday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we are broadcasting until I can figure out how to get back and broadcast within a group on Facebook and multi-stream multiple places. Facebook has kind of shut that down for us. But until we can figure that out, we're going to be broadcasting on the Camping Gear Report YouTube channel. So you can always find back episodes of this in the live section on Camping Gear Report, so you can watch those. And fingers crossed, within the next month or two, by the end of the year, I will have gotten the back catalog converted to audio format and uploaded. We used to stream them on podcast platforms, so you could download, listen to them on your commute or while you're at the gym or whenever you want to. The tool that did that broke about a year ago, and I haven't got the new tool set up yet. I've had some requests for that, so I'm going to try to start uploading these in podcast audio format before the end of the year. So we can look forward to that. I think we've talked enough. We should probably shut it down. Is anyone not ready?
Icon.
Icon.
Icon.